What's up, everyone? Today I'm going to break down some of the essentials behind drum and bass and jungle drumming. Those terms, drum and bass and jungle, are often used somewhat interchangeably, but they are stylistically distinct from one another. Drum and bass is typically a little bit faster than jungle. Drum and bass usually sits somewhere between like 170 and 180 beats per minute, while jungle is usually more in like the 140 to 160 range, I think. In any case, a lot of the drum patterns are strikingly similar, and they all have their roots in old school funk and soul music. Some modern drummers off the top of my head that I feel really do this style justice while still injecting their own personal spin on it are like Jojo Mayer, Ian Masiak, Harris Yoakley, Lewis Cole, Dan Mayo, J.D. Beck, those kinds of drummers. They are so good. Check them out for some inspiration if you're not aware of them already. But if we want to gain a deeper understanding of what characterizes jungle drumming, we need to study some old school funk and soul drumming, since all of this modern stuff is rooted in these older styles. So jungle or drum and bass music originated in the later 80s throughout the early 90s, mostly in the UK, and they were sampling old school funk and soul music. So they were taking these drum breaks from music that originated in like the late 60s, early 70s, and they were chopping up these drum solos or these beats and rearranging them, and of course increasing the speed substantially. So if you listen to some old school James Brown recordings with Clyde Stubblefield on drums, you'll hear a lot of the early vocabulary that fed into the generation of drum and bass and jungle music. And of course, I have to mention the Amen break, which is from the tune Amen Brother by the Winstons. It's only like a 6-second drum solo, but it ended up becoming one of the most sampled pieces of music in history and has kind of generated this whole super fast breakbeat type thing. So producers started sampling these old drum breaks, especially since they had no other instruments on top of them. It was way easier to isolate individual drum sounds and shuffle their order around and create entirely new beats from these old samples. So these old funk beats generally have all of the same characteristics as drum and bass and jungle grooves, the biggest difference being the tempo at which they're played. Some of these elements include displaced backbeats, so instead of always hitting the snare drum directly on beats 2 and 4, we can move those backbeats to the and of a beat, which syncopates the groove. It kind of creates some rhythmic tension. Generally, there's not too much happening on the bass drum. You don't really have a lot of rapid 16th note figures or anything like that. Typically, there are lots of ghost notes, especially on the 16th upbeats, so your hands end up just kind of alternating a lot between the hi-hats and the snare drum. And there's a lot of this particular dynamic phrase on the snare drum where we have a ghost note immediately before an accent. In order to cleanly play these little ghost note accent combos, your wrist needs to be super loose, and you also need to be able to snap it real quick. To create a wider division in dynamics between my ghost notes and my accents, I will always play my accents with a rim shot. Now I'm going to break down 4 different phrases that take all of these elements into consideration. Everything is going to be played in 2-measure chunks, and there is a bit of a progression in the difficulty of these. So the first phrase is the easiest, while the last phrase is the busiest. It's got the most going on. I'll demonstrate everything at full speed first, and then I'll slow it down. So those are a few phrases to get you started. From there, try creating your own combinations based around the elements discussed earlier in this video. And of course, listen to jungle and drum and bass music to really absorb some more vocabulary and hear these elements in action. If you like what you saw in this video, check out my Patreon page. Your support grants you access to downloadable transcriptions for this video, as well as transcriptions for all my other lesson videos. And follow me on Instagram @DrumMerhar to see more videos of my playing. As always, thanks for watching and see you next time.